Who dat to the Who Dat Nation? Welcome to the Who Dat Said podcast, your podcast for the New Orleans Saints here on the KB Radio Network. I am your fellow Who Dat, Kevin Reed, and are you ready for some football? Are you ready for some real football as the New Orleans Saints have completed training camp, completed preseason? They have finalized their 53-man starter. They finally made a decision on QB1, and we are geared up for September the 7th when the Saints take on the Arizona Cardinals in the Dome, 12 noon in the first regular season game of 2025. This is our 2025 NFL New Orleans Saints football season preview. I am so happy to have arrived at this point because there's a lot to be happy about. This is a new season, a new era, a new revamped team. It just feels different. And I'm not swinging on the high of, oh man, it feels like when Sean Payton got here in 2006 and we went to the NFC Championship game and revitalized the city and all this other good stuff. I'm not on that level. I'm not there. I'm just excited to see a change because we have been stuck for 18 years in this Sean Payton vortex. It was kind of poetic to kind of end the preseason against Sean Payton and his Denver Broncos because that signified a new start to this franchise. That's the end of the Sean Payton era. We are going away from that. Now we're going into a new revamped team under Kellen Moore as our new head coach, rookie head coach, mind you, who is tasked to get this team back to the prominence that we have grown to love, especially over these past 16 years, with Sean Payton taking over and just spiraling out of control when Dennis Allen took over as head coach, and it was a dumpster fire and an embarrassment to watch on Sundays, to be quite honest with you. But hopefully we're on a different track. What we're going to do for today's episode, we're going to break down everything going into this season. We're going to go over the 53-man roster that was released after the cuts to get it down to 53. And we're going to go over the schedule game by game, all 17 games of this season, and break down and give my predictions of what I think the season will ultimately come to. I mean, what will be our final verdict at the end of this season? A lot of football analysts have the Saints with the first overall pick in next year's draft because there's nothing really to get excited about from the outside looking in, and I get it, but the black and gold in me won't allow me to look at it from that spectrum. I gotta look at it with a sense of optimism that we are gonna be all right. I'm not saying we're gonna make the playoffs or nothing like that. Trust me, when we go through this schedule, you're gonna clearly see that I don't think we're gonna do that, but I think we're going to fare out a little better than what all of the national sports media have the Saints. I think last I saw, they had the Saints winning at best case scenario 5 games this upcoming season. But we'll see. I'll give my thoughts, and I could be completely off, and they could be completely right. I don't know, but we'll go over that when we go over that, and then we're going to try to answer some questions that the Who Dat Nation may have. At least I do, in regards to this team leading into this season. So before we get into all of that, let's kind of recap what has taken place over the last few months in the Who Dat Nation. Of course, last season, Saints started off hot, won the first two games in historic fashion, and just dominated the Carolina Panthers, dominated the Dallas Cowboys, and then all of a sudden, the wheels fell off, man. I mean, the wheels fell off, lost seven straight, and after the seventh loss, well, it wasn't the seventh loss, but after, I guess, all of the fan outrage, Gail Benson finally came down from the skybox and did what she had to do. And she relieved Dennis Allen of his duties as the Saints head coach. That gave Darren Rizzi the interim head coaching job. He went on to give us a respectable ending record, by interim standards. I mean, didn't go on a 12-game winning streak or nothing, but he was he made it respectable. He had those guys fighting for the most part. We were in a lot of games that we shouldn't have been in, and we won a few games that we probably, wouldn't have won otherwise. We were riddled with injuries. The whole offensive line went down. Our two-star receivers went down. We lost Alvin Kamara for a month, the last month of the season, and probably his best rushing season in the NFL as a New Orleans Saint. He was just this close to finally getting 1,000 yards rushing, and got hurt, and still it has yet to reach that goal. Derek Carr, our starting quarterback last season, he went down. We went to Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler, the rookie at the time, did the best he could under the circumstances and still never won a game. Jake Hader started a game. He couldn't win a game. It was just everything it was just a dumpster fire, man. It was hard to watch last season. The Saints ended last year's slow death at 5-12, securing the number 9 pick in the NFL draft, which had a lot of people on edge, because we were, how can I put this delicately? We weren't known for making smart decisions when we had a high pick in the draft. Either they're bust or they don't live up to expectations. It's not so much they're a bust, but they just don't live up to expectations at the time. So it was a scary time. All the while, we're in a search for a head coach. And being as though the Saints were the first team to relieve their head coach of their duties last season, you would think the Saints would be one of the first teams to hire a head coach. Well, in true New Orleans Saints fashion, we were the very last team to hire a coach. And it was for good reason, I suppose. When the New Orleans Saints hired the offensive coordinator from the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, none other than Kellen Moore, the day after the Super Bowl, after he secured that victory for his former team. I thought that was a decent hire. I wasn't over the moon with Kellen Moore because he was unproven. To be fair to him, I had pretty much the same emotion in 2005 when they hired Sean Payton, because I was like, who? I know he was offensive coordinator at Dallas under Bill Parcells, but I wasn't over the moon excited about that choice. Boy, did we or did I poo the bed on that one. It turned out to be the greatest head coach in Saints history, giving us our first and only Super Bowl up to this point. But in regards to Kellen Moore, he has a really good pedigree as an offensive coordinator. Being an offensive coordinator also in Dallas for a few years under Mike McCarthy, he managed to get probably the best years out of Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has not looked the same since Kellen Moore left Dallas. And I'm not a super Dak Prescott fan, but I think Dak Prescott is a pretty decent quarterback. Do I think he's a future Hall of Famer? No. Do I think he'll ever win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But he is a really good, solid quarterback. And his best years were under Kellen Moore. And so I was encouraged by that. He left Dallas, went to the Los Angeles Chargers for a year, worked under, or at least worked with Justin Herbert. I think Justin Herbert got hurt that year, so he didn't have a full go with Justin Herbert. And then he left there and went to Philly, where he coached Jalen Hurts to a Super Bowl. And so he's had some really good quarterbacks to work with. And that was one of the question marks I had about Kellen Moore. Is it him, or is it the quarterbacks he have? Is it the talent he's surrounded with? I mean, in Philadelphia alone, my God, that was an all-star team, man. That was an all-pro team in every position almost, man. I mean, my God, Jalen Hurts, yeah, he won a Super Bowl with him, but Jalen Hurts got to a Super Bowl without him too. So you have that. You had Saquon Barkley, who finally had that breakout season everybody has been clamoring for, especially the people in New York when he was with the Giants. But he was bitten by the injury bug there. But he was 100% healthy in Philly, and my God, look at what he did. You had AJ Brown at wide receiver, the Swift cat at wide receiver, a real good offensive line there. Defensively, I mean, that front four is probably the best front four in football. Did you see what they did in the Super Bowl to poor little Patrick Mahomes? So it's kind of like, is it really Kellen Moore? But I got to give the devil his due. He was the offensive coordinator there. That same team went to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago and couldn't quite get there. Couldn't quite beat Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Whereas they demolished them this go around when they met up again with Kellen Moore. So it's 6 in one hand, half dozen in the other. So we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, he had some really good quarterbacks to start off with. Now he gets to the Saints, and he has Derek Carr. So Derek Carr is here. Or is he here at this point? Because Derek Carr, after he got hurt in I forgot what game it was. I think it was against the Giants. And he got hurt, and he was never seen again. Super Bowl was down here, didn't see him. They announced Kellen Moore as the head coach. He's nowhere to be found. All the while, Mickey Loomis still decides to give him a contract extension, which he asked not to do. He didn't want an extension, which told everybody all they needed to know, at least those who were paying attention. He did not want to be here. Then all the news started breaking. He wanted a trade. He wanted to be released. He all this stuff. He needed to have surgery. The mystery injuries that he had. He went to church. Instead of preaching about God, he preaching about how he don't want to be in New Orleans. It was just it was crazy. And we find out that he didn't even talk to Kellen Moore. He ain't even talk. He was gone. And he was gone the moment they fired Dennis Allen. Mentally, he was gone. And so that was it. He was just waiting for the body to follow. And so the Saints lucked up when Derek Carr couldn't get his way and he decided to retire. And so now the Saints are faced with a certain situation. We don't have a quarterback. We don't have a veteran quarterback, a starting quarterback, a franchise quarterback to lead this team under Kellen Moore. Now, Saints enter the draft at number 9. What do? Well, there was a lot of speculation. Saints were really high on Jackson Dart. Really, really high on Jackson Dart. Well, the Giants who were ahead of the Saints in the draft, drafted Jackson Dart. So now, what do the Saints do? Saints, after last season, offensive line is broken up, hurt all the time. We need help on his O-line. At number 9, the Saints pick Calvin Banks Jr., offensive tackle out of Texas. Good pick. Really good pick. Solid pick. Loved it. And so now the question is, what do they do with the number 2 pick or the second round pick? And a lot of questions again. You see Shedeur Sanders creeping down. A lot of people felt that this was a good spot for him. I felt this was a good spot for him. A potential franchise quarterback of the future. Don't think he's one now, but I think he could be one later on. He showed all the qualities in college, and I thought this was it. I thought that the Saints were really going to pull the trigger, but the Saints pulled a voila, and they drafted Tyler Shuck, a 25-year-old rookie from Louisville who has had 3 season-ending injuries in college. Now, I did some research on Tyler Shuck after. I didn't want to fly off the handle and get mad when they picked him. Not because I wanted Shedeur. It was the fact I knew nothing about this guy, and the little that I did know about the guy, he stayed hurt. So I'm like, why did we make this pick? At least this high. I don't think anybody was checking for Tyler Shuck. You probably could have got him in the 3rd, 4th round. That's my prediction. I don't think nobody was looking at Tyler Shuck. That's my issue with Tyler Shuck, and it ain't Tyler Shuck's fault. He didn't draft himself. It's the Saints. It's the Saints. You didn't have to invest that much in Tyler Shuck. And you put a lot of pressure on Kellen Moore. You put a lot of pressure on Tyler Shuck. Because now the expectation is he's the guy. He's the guy. And if this doesn't pan out right, you're in trouble. You know, granted, the quarterback room does not look all that good. Who you have in there now? You had Spencer Rattler and Jake Hander, 2 quarterbacks who both had starts last season, and you have 0 victories between the 2 of them. So it's not encouraging. It is not encouraging at all. And so, all right, fine. And so you go through the rest of the draft, and you make some solid picks in that draft. And just to jump ahead a little bit, all of those picks in the draft, every single one of them, with the exception of one that I think did not make the 53 when they did the cut downs, all of them looked good in the preseason. Every single one. Even Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck had some flashes in the preseason. And this was a really good draft by the Saints right now. Now, normally you grade drafts 2 years away, you know, once the players get acclimated in the NFL days, you know, daily grind, I should say. So you got to give it time. But right now, how they look, how they are hungry, yeah, I'm excited for this team, man. I'm excited for these young players that came out of this draft. So that leads us to the preseason, or the training camp, I should say. And now there's a battle going on. There was a battle for the starting position, not with 2 quarterbacks, but with 3. You had Tyler Shuck, Spencer Rattler, and Jake Hader all vying for the QB1 position. Now, I always felt that this would be decided by week 1 of the preseason. Reason being, I really felt that Spencer Rattler was further along development-wise. But I didn't take into account that Tyler Shuck is older. Technically, Tyler Shuck, there ain't no technically, it is. Tyler Shuck is older than Spencer Rattler, believe it or not, even though he's the rookie, because Tyler Shuck had 7 years in college due to those injuries. So that's why it took him a minute to get to the NFL. But He's older, but yeah, that played a part, because they're both pretty much on an even playing field. And I didn't take that into account until maybe the second preseason game, and it started to make sense when I saw them both on the field, saw sample sizes of them, uh, uh, working in this offense. And so this turned into a legitimate battle in camp. Now, to be 100% honest with you, I was holding on to hope that the Saints would bring in a veteran quarterback. It didn't make sense, and it still don't. Right now, it still don't make sense why the Saints don't have a veteran quarterback on their roster. I'm not saying a Aaron Rodgers or you know, a Carson Wentz or something like that. Just somebody that knows football, that has experience further than last season. I need a quarterback that comes in not to be the man, but to train the man, to show either Tyler Shuck or Spencer Rattler or Jake Hader how to win, how to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. Oh well, they chose not to do that. They chose to run with these rookies, and they're all rookies in my eyes because last season really doesn't count to me. 6 starts does not constitute a veteran. That doesn't work for me, especially when you had 6 starts with the practice squad because you had no starters out there with you. And it doesn't count. I can't give a fair assessment of either Jake Hader or Spencer Rattler from last season. It wasn't fair for people to compare or to bring up last season's stats and what they did on the field and in the Tampa game or in the Washington Commanders game and all this. They were rookies, and they still are. They don't have a full season of games under their belt. So it's not fair to do that. They're all rookies. But we went through preseason, we went through training camp, went through joint practices and all of this good stuff. And ultimately, it was decided by Kellen Moore, his staff, and whoever else over there on airline that Spencer Rattler will be the starting QB week 1 versus the Arizona Cardinals. And, I'm happy for Spencer Rattler. I really am. But I'm of two minds of the situation because I want Spencer Rattler to get a fair chance, and he got a fair chance. And before I go on this rant, let me back it up a bit. I give Kellen Moore all the kudos. I didn't understand what he was doing in the in the preseason, how he was splitting time and putting Shuck in with the ones here and Spencer with the 2s here and trying to sprinkle in Hainer whenever he could and flipped it the next game and gave Spencer Rattler the start and had Tyler Shuck come in a 2-minute drill and stuff like. I didn't know what he was doing, but honestly, when you really sit back and look at it in its totality, he gave everybody a fair shake. I think the only one who really didn't get a real fair shake was Jake Hader. Jake Hader didn't have a chance. He didn't stand a chance. And poor fella, and he looked like a cool dude, man, but he did not stand a chance of winning that position. But it's all good. But going back to Spencer Rattler, I think that this is a smart move for a lot of reasons. One being Spencer Rattler, in my humble opinion, I wasn't at practices and all that there, but just looking at them side by side on the field, now numbers wise, they were dead and even in the preseason, almost virtually, like a few yards here, a couple of completions and attempts here, but ultimately, if you round them all up, they're pretty much the same. I was looking at the pocket presence. I was looking at the poise in the pocket. I was looking at how they commanded the offense, and Spencer Rattler won that battle, as he should have, because he do have experience with that. He's been with these guys for a year. So he knows everybody. He has a chemistry with certain receivers and whatnot. So that made sense, and it was only the logical choice. The other reason is a good idea to start the season off with Spencer Rattler is number one is a dead season. As I said to start the show, nobody is picking the Saints to do anything of note this season. This is pretty much a wash, and I can somewhat agree with it, but whatever. And you you start off the season with Spencer Rattler. Maybe the first 4, 5, 6 games, and let's see how that go. If he can go 3-3 the first 6 games of the season and do it in a pretty convention fashion, wins wise, numbers wise, okay, maybe you hold on to him. But if you're barely winning or you're losing, more more accurately, if you're losing and he's not looking like he's progressing, then you can bring in Tyler Shuck, after a month of sitting back and practicing, working on his craft, and correcting some of the things that he's kind of slowful in. And it works. That works. Bring him in later in the season. The schedule gets a little easier, and I mean little easier towards the end. So this would be a perfect way to ease him into the mix if he's the guy moving forward. So it makes sense. It makes sense. Not mad at it. But with all that being said, with that roster move decision, let's go into the Saints depth chart and some of the cuts, well, all of the cuts that they made during the preseason to get to this 53-man roster that was desperately needed, required, I should say, to start the regular season. Now, before we get to the cuts, I must say, mention an addition that the Saints made before they made the cuts. They did acquire offensive lineman Assam Richards from Dallas for future compensation. It wasn't disclosed, at least at the time of this recording, what was the compensation, but they did get some depth on the offensive line, which was desperately needed. And so that was a good move by the New Orleans Saints to bring in Assam Richards from Dallas. But the Saints did terminate 5 contracts. Terrence Burgess, the safety. Running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire was cut. Shane Lemieux, guard and center, he was cut. Dante Pennis was cut. Wide receiver. And defensive end Jonah Williams was cut as well. Out of those 5 contracts that were terminated, I will say that I'm a little surprised. Well, not really surprised, but a little disappointed because I liked him. Dante Pennis, the wide receiver, I liked him. He's a hard worker. And to say this, when I go through this entire list, there is a chance that we get these guys back to sign on the practice squad if they all clear waivers without another team picking them up before they clear waivers. So there's a chance that a few of these players can return to the New Orleans Saints and be placed on the practice squad. But as of now, they had to make that cut. But I can see Dante Pettis, if he clears waivers, returning. But the other one that kind of surprised me a little bit was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire can be a good running back. At least he'll never be a starter in my eyes. I never was a big Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy. I never saw him as the guy, running the ball. He's decent. He's good, but nobody that's going to definitely overtake Alvin Kamara and challenge him for that starting spot. That's not going to happen. But he would have been a nice backup, I think. But I mentioned a few shows ago that running back room was packed, because he wasn't the only running back to hit the road during the cuts. Let's go to the waived players. The waived players, we start off, and there's a couple of, you may find some surprises in here. There's a couple in here I kind of like, what? but there were others in here like finally, but it is what it is. The wave players, wide receiver Kevin Austin Jr., cornerback Dallas Beanham, uh, safety Elliott Davis, son. This one was the shock for me because we drafted him, granted late in the 7th round, defensive end Fidel Diggs. He got waived. I saw him do a little something, and I mean a little, but he did a little something in preseason. I saw his name or heard his name called a couple of times during preseason, but ultimately he got waived. Isaac Forsky, defensive end, got waived. Let me pause for a minute with Mr. Forsky. I wish him all the well, man. I really do. I hope he lands on his feet somewhere and contribute to wherever he goes. Here in New Orleans, this wasn't it. This was a big disappointment. You talk about a bust. This is one of the biggest bust draft picks in New Orleans Saints history. Hands down, man. He was a second round pick. This dude, I think, still holds the record in Notre Dame as far as tackles are concerned. And that's a prestigious university when it comes to defensive players. He holds the record for the most tackles. He got to the New Orleans Saints. I don't think he had any. He is, I mean, and I give Kellen Moore his props. He gave Isaac Forsky all the opportunity in the world. Isaac Forsky played every single preseason game, the entire game, all 3 games, and he did absolutely nothing. When the ones were in, he was in. When the second string was in, he was in. When the third strings came in, he was in. And he still could not produce nothing. I don't know what it was. I don't know what happened. I mean, I watched him at Notre Dame. I thought that was a home run hit of a pick. Boy, was I let down. That is a bust if you ever seen one. But he has been waived by the New Orleans Saints. Another waiver that kind of shocks me, and we're going to get a little deeper into it later. But quarterback Jake Hader, he was waived as well. Another draft pick that I wouldn't say was a bust, but it's close to a bust, and that is DeMarco Jackson, linebacker. I had a lot of high hopes for him. Coming out of where did he go to school? Appalachian State, I think. He was at least he was called or compared to Demario Davis in college, a younger version. And that's why the Saints draft him, to be a younger version of Demario Davis. Same skill set, same energy and whatnot. Nothing. I think what sealed his fate was that first preseason game when he let, who that was. Oh, man, he whiffed on about 3 tackles, man. I mean, dead to rights, 3 tackles. And I was like, that's it. He's done. And sure enough, he did not make it. Easton Kitty, or Killo. That's a L, not a T. A tackle, he got waived. Rico Payton, he was waived, the cornerback. Jaden Purvey, defensive tackle, he was waived. Cornerback Jaden Price. Nufai Sewell, linebacker, he was waived. And that was kind of a surprise too, because he's more of a special teamer, a real good special teams player, and occasionally he'll come in and play some downs on defense, but he was waived. Kicker Charlie Smith, tight end Trayton Walls, and running back Marcus Yearns. And I don't think he touched the field. I don't recall seeing him in camp, but he did not survive the cuts. They placed 3 players on injured reserve, 3 players, and that would be John Ridgway III, defensive tackle. That was a big free agent signing that we got there, and I don't know, but he is designated to return. And so he could return later on this season, but as for now, he's on injured reserve along with offensive tackles Barry Wesley and Landon Young. Now, Barry Wesley, he is designated to return. Landon Young, not so much. So it's not looking good for him. But the other two, they are designated to return. So we'll wait and see. Other injured players, not on injured reserve, but who are on the physically unable to perform list or the PUP list, is our two tight ends, Taysom Hill and Foster Monroe. Taysom Hill is 35 years old. 35. I don't know. And this injury is kind of weary because this is an injury he had last season and he hasn't bounced back from. And it's kind of discouraging, you know. It's a little discouraging that he's still hampered by this injury. Foster Monroe, he's hot or cold, hit or miss, and he's a prototypical tight end that we really do need. We do have Juwan Johnson, but he's not a true blue tight end. Juwan Johnson is a wide receiver in a tight end's body. But anyway, those are your cut players. I feel like I missed one. It was somebody I missed. Oh, Cam Akers. The running back. He was cut. I think he was like the first one cut. And he didn't know it. Well, no, he knew. He released it before the Saints released it. He went on Twitter. He wasn't too happy. Let's just put it that way. But anyways, those players are no longer on the New Orleans Saints squad as of right now. Now, as I said before, you can expect to see some of those players return to the practice squad. I think there's 16 positions to fill on the practice squad, so a majority of them, if they clear waivers, will return to the Who Dat Nation. So, with all that being said, let's get away from those who are no longer here and let's focus on who is here, who is in that locker room over there in Metairie on Airline Drive. Let's go over the 2025 New Orleans Saints depth chart. This is the team that we are entering this season with in their rightful positions, I believe. I think these are the starters and their backups, but this is everybody who is currently on the team, all 53 players. And we start off at quarterback, of course, at QB1, Spencer Rattler. His backup is Tyler Shuck, and that's it. Saints only have two quarterbacks on the roster, and that's the part that when I mentioned talking about the cuts, when they cut Jake Hader, why would you not have a third quarterback? I don't get that. I don't understand that. And you have two. This is so confusing. It's really frustrating because anything can happen. Now I know eventually they're probably going to bring somebody in. I'm confident they have a plan. You're not going to make me believe that the Saints are going to go through an entire NFL football season with two quarterbacks on the roster. Only two quarterbacks on the roster, and one of them is injury prone. I don't see that. I don't see that happen. And with a flaky offensive line, there's no way. They're going to have to bring somebody in. Who? Don't know, but it's got to happen. Like I said, Jake Hader, 9 times out of 10, he will return. I don't see him going anywhere else. A team will have to be desperate, and that's no disrespect to Jake Hader, but I don't see Jake Hader fitting in anywhere else but here. And so if he clears waivers, he's probably going to return. But even with that, come on. You need to bring in another quarterback. But those are your two quarterbacks on the roster right now. As for running back, we have Alvin Kamara, Kendre Miller, Devin Neal, and Valdez Jones Jr. And he shocked the world with me. He is the one who pretty much got Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Cam Akers shown the door. He looked so good in preseason. I knew nothing about the guy, really didn't, and I was impressed. Really like him. Devin Neal finally played that last preseason game. Looked good in a couple of runs that I saw. So I am encouraged by that as well. Our wide receivers. At wide receiver 1, we have Chris Olave. At wide receiver 2, Rashid Shaheed. At wide receiver 3, Brandon Cooks. To round out our wide receiver room, we have newly acquired Devont Verley, Cedric Wilson Jr., and Mason Tifton. Also, we have Bud Means, but he is on injured reserve as of right now. Tight end, you have Jawan Johnson, Jack Stahl, Molake Mavato. I'm butchering his name to all. I am butchering it, man. But he's the rookie that they drafted in this past draft. Big guy, Samoan. But I'm pretty sure I'll get his name down pat as the season goes along. And you also have Taysom Hill and Foster Moreau, who are both on injured reserve or on the PUP list as of right now. Moving on to our offensive line. Starting at left tackle, our first overall pick, number 9 pick in the draft, Calvin Banks Jr. Our left guard is Trevor Penning, who is a little banged up. He's questionable right now, but he is our starting left guard. At center, Eric McCoy. Right guard, Cesar Ruiz, who had an awful preseason. And at right tackle, Taliense Fuaga. Also on our offensive line, newly acquired Sam Richards, Dylan Reduns, Luke Fortner, Simpkins the third. I can't pronounce his first name, but yeah, he made the team. The rest are on injured reserve as of right now. You have Will Clapp, Nick Saldivari, Landon Young, and Barry Wesley. Over on defense, our newly revamped 3-4 defense. At left defensive end, you have Cam Jordan and Jonathan Bullard. At nose tackle, you have Devin Gautreaux and Christian Boyd. At right defensive end, you have Brian Brzee, Nathan Shepard, Vernon Broughton, and John Ridgway III, who is on injured reserve. At weak side linebacker, Carl Grandison. At left inside linebacker, you have Demario Davis, Danny Schruckman, and Isaiah Stallbird, who just looked amazing in the preseason. At right inside linebacker, Pete Warner, Jalen Ford. At strong linebacker, you have Chase Young, as well as Chris Rump II. Moving over into our secondary, at left cornerback, Kool-Aid McKinstry and Quincy Riley. Strong safety, Justin Reed, Jordan Howden. At free safety, Jalen Blackman, Jonas Sanker, who once again, amazing preseason, and JT Gray, who has been injured throughout camp, but he is expected to be back before the regular season. At right linebacker, speaking of having played in the preseason, Alante Taylor, who, if you let reports tell it, he's not really hurt. He's seeking a contract, but you didn't hear that from me. But he is listed as our starting right cornerback. We also have Rajon Wright, as well as Jaden Price. And at nickelback, you have Isaac Yeldon, as well as Hugo Amadi. Our special teams go as such. Blake Groupie is our place kicker. Our punter is Kai Kroger. And our punt returner, at least as it designated right now, is still Rashid Shaheed. I do predict a lot of moving and shaking within the next week before the season starts. Probably going to move some players around, probably bring some players in, see where we at in certain positions, especially when it comes to claiming players off of the practice squad, off of waivers, maybe free agents or trades or whatever the case may be, to kind of bulk up this team. Because when you look at this team on paper, this team really looks like a good team. They have all the elements you need to be a competitive team. But when you peel back those layers, you see a lot of youth, you see a lot of inexperience, and you also see a lot of old players. There's no middle ground. You either too old, a la Cam Jordan, or super young, a la Spencer Rattler. You know? And so there's a lot of mixed bag in this roster, but it could be a good balance or it could be a dumpster fire. We'll see as this season goes along. Speaking of the season, let's jump into this schedule. Let's jump into the 2025 NFL schedule for the New Orleans Saints. Note that the Saints are one of 3 teams this season that have 0 primetime games. That's no Sunday night games, no Thursday night games, and no Monday night football games. Every Saints game this season will be on a Sunday afternoon. It's kind of upsetting in a way. The other 2 teams is the Browns and the Titans, who have their own reasons for not being on here. And the Saints did themselves no favors and really brought this punishment down on themselves, because the Saints have had a lot of primetime games over the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years straight. We've had multiple Monday night games within a season. We've had multiple Thursday night games within a season, a few Sunday night games mixed in there, and each and every one of those nationally televised games, the Saints not only went out there and lost, but got embarrassed. Embarrassed. Those were the worst games the Saints played. And so it's no shock that the New Orleans Saints have no primetime games this season. You know, and I don't blame the NFL. You know, at the end of the day, it is a billion-dollar business, and they're out there to make money. And watching a struggling young team with 0 aspirations on your primetime TV that's probably going to be beaten an inch within their lives against their opponent on TV, nobody's going to watch that. So that loses money for them. I'm not putting this on TV, and I don't blame them. The Saints need to earn their way back to prominence, to the prime time, to have the spotlight shined on them. But in order to do that, we have to get through this season and have to show the NFL that they made a giant mistake. I don't know if they did or not. We'll see at the end. But I'm going to go through every game. I'm not going to break it down because it doesn't make sense to break down every game, because I don't know what these other teams are doing. Heck, I don't know what we're doing. I know what it looks like, and I'm only going by what's on paper. And these are my preseason predictions. This isn't nothing that's carved in stone, etched in stone, that I would go to the grave screaming from a mountaintop. But this is just what I think is going to be the final outcome of this season. I'm actually happy with it. If it goes the way that I have it down here, I can live with this. I actually think this is a good record. But let's start off. With Sunday, September the 7th, from the Caesars Superdome, 12 noon on CBS. The New Orleans Saints will host the Arizona Cardinals, which is the hometown team of our starting quarterback, Spencer Rattler. He's from Arizona, so it's kind of poetic that he gets his first start against his hometown team in the Dome. Normally I would sit back and say, Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., this is probably going to be a loss. Initially, I had a question mark next to this game, but I think this is a winnable game for the Saints. The deciding factor is at home. And I think it being in a dome, I think with the Who Dat Nation kind of getting that jolt of adrenaline pumped into them with this new regime that's coming in here and the new quarterback and just a new outlook for the organization, I think that energy in the dome will elevate this team to beat the Arizona Cardinals in week 1. I think in the Cardinals, as far as I've read up and looked up, haven't really turned the corner as of yet, and I have zero faith in Kyler Murray. I was really pulling for Kyler Murray to be something in his league, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But who knows? It can flash. I had Sam Donald being a complete bust. He looked horrible with the Jets. He looked not all that good with the Carolina Panthers, but my God, he went to Minnesota. It helps that you have Justin Jefferson, but he went to Minnesota and completely turned his team around. Look at Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, he was heading to bust territory in Cleveland, because Cleveland is the place where quarterbacks go to die anyway. But he got out of Cleveland, went to Tampa, and look at him. Look at him. They done been to the playoffs 3 straight years under, well, at least with Baker Mayfield over there. But so maybe Kyler Murray needs a new change of scenery. But right now in Arizona, I think it's going to be the same old, same old. I think this defense will give him trouble, and I think the Saints will win week 1. Week 2, staying at home in the Dome, September the 14th, 12 noon on Fox, the Saints will host the San Francisco 49ers. Brock Purdy, T.O. Jr. There's a lot of turnaround that's happened in Frisco. Deebo Samuel is gone. Somebody else left too, but they're missing a lot of pieces there. That running game isn't as strong as it used to be, but you can't count out Kyle Shanahan. This will be the Saints' first loss. I don't think the Saints have enough to beat the 49ers. Could be surprised, but I don't see it. I don't see it. 49ers are a real good team. Last season was a rough season for them, but they had a lot of injuries last year as well. So I think this would probably be somewhat of a bounce back season for them. But I think the Saints will put up a good fight. But ultimately, the San Francisco 49ers will hand the New Orleans Saints their first loss of the season. After that, on September the 21st, at 3:05 p.m. on Fox, the Saints, on CBS, the Saints will travel to Seattle, Washington to take on those pesky Seahawks, the birthplace of beast mode, the most one of not the most, but one of the most heartbreaking playoff games that the Saints ever played was in that stadium. They will travel to Seattle. This time there will be no Pete Carroll. There will be no Geno Smith. I forgot who the quarterback is now for Seattle, but they have a new head coach. There's no Legion of Boom. There's no beast mode. This is not the same team. I don't even think DJ Metcalf is there anymore. I could be mistaken. But this is not the same team. With all that being said, I think the Saints might lose this game. I think the Saints going to lose this one. This one I had a question mark by. But ultimately, I think they're going to lose this game. That is a rough place to play. No matter how bad Seattle struggles or who's playing, who's coaching, it's always a tough place to play. And quite frankly, I don't think the Saints are built for that long trip to Seattle to defeat the Seahawks. The Saints will lose this game, bringing their record to 1-2 up to this point. And in week 4, they have to leave Seattle and go all the way across the country to Buffalo to play the Buffalo Bills, 12 noon on CBS. Do I have to go through it all? Yeah, the Bills win this game. there's no way. Even if the Saints had a bye in between, I don't think they're going to beat the Bills. But the mere fact that they have to play Seattle, which is the longest trip, no matter where you're at in the United States, is the longest trip in the world to get there, and then take another flight and go all the way to Buffalo, because it don't make sense to come back to New Orleans and then go to Buffalo. That's even more taxing. And so either way it goes, it's a lose-lose situation. And then you got to play Josh Allen. Man, that's going to be an L, unfortunately, for the Who Dat Nation. The Saints will be 1-3 at this point in the season. We do return home, though. We return home to play the New York Giants on October the 5th, 12 noon on CBS. We get to see the player that I think Kellen Moore and the rest of the Saints organization wanted as their quarterback, Jackson Dart. Even though Jackson Dart isn't the starting quarterback right now in New York, it's Russell Wilson. But I think who knows what happens at this point. But the Giants come here. Like I said, Russell Wilson, Jackson Dart, pick your poison there. Aside from that, the Giants are the Giants. The Giants, they leave a lot to be desired, dog. It's not. You really can't put a finger on them. You don't know what you're going to get with the Giants. Equally so, you don't know what you're going to get with Russell Wilson. So it's like what you do? I honestly, taking the who that in me out of it, I can't find a scenario where the Saints lose this game. I think the Saints will bounce back after a 3-game skid and defeat the Giants in week 5 and bring their record up to this point to 2-3. Shocking. And that leads us to October the 12th, week 6. At home, the Saints will host the New England Patriots, 3:25 on CBS. Patriots new head coach Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is a pretty good coach. I think he did some good things when he was the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. I don't know. He just couldn't find a quarterback. And really doesn't have much of a quarterback now in New England, but he's going to have that defense playing. And I don't know. Once again, I don't know how to gauge this game because I don't know how this quote-unquote new-look New England Patriots team is going to look or how they're going to come out playing. Are they going to be run-heavy like they were, like Mike Vrabel had the Tennessee Titans were? Granted, he had a beast of a running back in Tennessee with Derrick Henry, but I don't know. But I'm gonna go ahead on. I'm gonna lean towards the Saints on this one. I'm gonna say the Saints get their first 2-game win streak when they defeat the New England Patriots in week 6 and bring their record to an even 500 of 3-3 on the season. Yeah, this is a shock so far. Did not know this schedule was going to go the way that I came to. I was like, man, there's no way. The wheels got to fall off at some point here, huh? Well, let's travel to week 7 when the New Orleans Saints travel to Chicago to take on the Bears, 12 noon on Fox. This will be a interesting game. Number one, if Spencer Rattler is still the quarterback at this point, he will be facing Caleb Williams, the man who took his job in Oklahoma or whatever college they was at. And that's what led to Spencer Rattler going to Carolina to finish out, or South Carolina to finish out his college career. But they will be facing off against one another, as well as us facing off against our former head coach and defensive coordinator, current defensive coordinator of the Chicago Bears, Dennis Allen. You can say what you want about Dennis Allen as a head coach, and I will probably agree that he was hot garbage as a coach, head coach. He could not. I don't. Let me be nice. Let me be nice. It's over. That era is over. Let's move on. But what you can say, what I will fight you to my death with, Dennis Allen is one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL, hands down, point blank, period. And this was a great hire by the Chicago Bears by getting Dennis Allen as their defensive coordinator. And I think he's going to get that defense right. I really do. That being said, he's really going to have them right for this game. There's going to be some emotion here. This is the team that fired him. He has some incentive there. He's probably, the one thing Dennis Allen didn't do enough of was blitz. He probably going to blitz out of the wazoo in this game. I can see it now. It's going to be pure anarchy in this game, but I think the Chicago Bears will come out victorious. Chicago is a better team on paper. Ben Johnson is the new head coach over there. Let's see how he gets that team whipped into shape. I don't think the Saints can overtake it. I think it's going to be a good game, though. I will say that. It's not going to be a slaughter. It's going to be a good game, but I think the Chicago Bears will come out victorious, leaving the Saints at a record of 3-4 up to this point. The Saints will play their first division game in Week 8, October the 26th, when they take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers here in the Caesars Superdome at 3:05 live on Fox. This will I went back and forth with our division, right? I went through all three teams that we have to face, whether it's Tampa, Carolina, or Atlanta, and how will we stack up? Now, the rest of the games of the season, it's whatever. It's a crapshoot. These are the games that you really sit back and want to dissect and analyze a little closely, if you will. Tampa has had the Saints number over the past couple of years for a number of reasons, but none of them is because Tampa is the better team. And I mean that with all respect. I respect Tampa. Tampa is a good team, but they're not a better team than the Saints. Saints have always dominated Tampa, and it wasn't up till recently when Saints have just turned into whatever they were, and we just couldn't cross that hump. Even with Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers couldn't do nothing with the Saints. And so, until we got to that playoff game, but the less said about that, the better. But now, with Baker Mayfield and with Todd Bowles as the coach, it's just, I don't know, man. We just can't cross that hump. There's something about it. It's something about this team. And Tampa is 3-time division champs, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 3? It could be 4. But they're the division. I know they're the current division champs. And so the Saints don't need to really exact dominance on our division this season, but we do have to make a stand. We do have to let this division know that we're coming. If we're not already here, that we're coming. Unfortunately, it won't start in this game. I think the Saints will lose this game against Tampa Bay. Tampa is, like I said, they're not a better team, but they're scrappy for lack of a better term. They're a real scrappy team. You know, they're gonna fight, and especially in this game, especially in this matchup, in this rivalry that we have. I think the Saints aren't ready for it. Not this new crop of Saints. We're not ready for it. So the Saints will lose this game against Tampa, bringing our record down to a 4-5 record. The Saints will travel to Los Angeles for Week 9, November the 2nd, to challenge the Rams. 3:05 on Fox. This will be another loss. There's no point going through all that, all that with this game. The Rams are a good team, well coached, Super Bowl pedigree. It's all there. It's all there. Just a few weeks ago when they had the joint practice with the Rams, all reports state that the Rams just manhandled the Saints, and that was a practice. And so I can imagine in a actual live action football game, it's not going to be pretty. The Saints will lose this game, dropping our record to 3-6 on the season so far. Week 10 on November the 9th, the New Orleans Saints will travel to Carolina to take on our other division rival, the Panthers, 12 noon on Fox. The Panthers kind of turned the corner at the end of last season. You know, they kind of woke up. They kind of came alive. Let's not forget, it was the Carolina Panthers that put the nail in the Dennis Allen coffin last season when we lost that game to Carolina in embarrassing fashion. He deserved it at that point. But they're still Carolina. You know, Carolina didn't do anything to move the needle as a team. They didn't bring in any real talent, you know, for their skill position players. You know, they never get a wide receiver. I don't know what it is. They are against bringing in wide receivers for this team. And they didn't do it this offseason as well. But I think this is, once again, going to be a hard-fought battle. But the Saints will bounce back after a 3-game losing streak and defeat the Carolina Panthers, bringing their record to 4-6 as they enter the bye week. Week 11 will be our bye, and I think this is the most perfectly paced bye week in the history of bye weeks. Dead smack center in the season. I know there's going to be a lot of injuries that take place during that 10-game stretch. A lot of hard-fought games. A lot of L's there. And so we need this week to go through this final stretch of the season. The big question surrounding this week, week 11, it will be the evaluation. If it gets to this point, could happen sooner, but I know for certain during this bye week, is this the moment you pull the trigger on Tyler Shuck? If it goes the way I'm looking at it, being 4-6 at the bye, season is almost dead, you know, but there's still hope. You're not completely out of it, but you're skirting that line. Do you want to pull the trigger and call up Tyler Shuck at this point? We'll have to wait and see. But after the bye, week 12, the New Orleans Saints on November the 23rd. Speaking of division rivals, it don't get more division rival than this. In the Caesars Superdome, the New Orleans Saints will host the Atlanta Falcons. 3:25 on Fox. You know what? I'm going to shock the world with this one. And I have this written down in a different color pen because this one is going to be a shock. Saints win. Saints beat Atlanta in their first matchup of the season in week 12. I think the Saints, coming off a bye, depending on how we go with the quarterback situation, I think being 4-6 at this point of the season, which is a win. Because mind you, like I said to start the show, a lot of analysts have the Saints only winning 5 games all season. And so to be at this point with 4 wins, with 7 games or what, yeah, 6, 7 games left of the season, man, that is a plus. That is you are ahead of schedule. You're riding high at this point. I think the Saints getting some rest, possibly getting some possible injured players back after the bye or whatever the case may be, going to be energized. Of course, the atmosphere in the dome with an Atlanta Falcon game is going to be electric. I think the Saints will beat Atlanta in Week 12, bringing their record to 5-6. Uh-oh. Can they do it? Will they do it? We shall see. Let's move on. Week 13 on November the 30th. The Saints will travel to Miami to take on the Dolphins, 12 noon on Fox. This one is another question mark. I don't know how to put my finger on Miami. Is Miami good? I don't know. Or did they get lucky a few years ago when they were making the playoffs and they look like this just new age team with what's their coach name? McDonald. I forget his name, but lately they kind of look like they're way over their heads. Their quarterback can't stay healthy, and Tyreek Hill mad, wanting to trade, and all this. It's a lot of drama with that team, and they underachieve, overachieve, and just I don't know. I can't put my finger on Miami. With all that being said, I don't know if the Saints have enough to beat Miami because Miami is really, really fast. That's one thing I can say about them. That's a fast team, you know. Not just their players, but the way they run their offense. And with our aging players on this team, who I'm not going to name, I think that's going to be a little too much for the Saints defense. And I don't think our offense is quite up to speed enough to keep pace with them. The Saints will lose this game in week 13 against Miami, bringing their record to 5-7. For our second matchup against Tampa, we travel to Tampa, Florida on December the 7th, 12 noon on CBS to take on the Buccaneers. Just like before, same principles align. Nothing changed here. Nothing to see here. And I think we would get the same result. The Saints will lose to Tampa. Tampa will sweep us this season. But it's all good. It's all for the greater good. Let them have this year. They can have it. It's all right. It's all right. We're going to get back. We're going to bounce back. And we're going to get our division back. But unfortunately, not this season. Tampa will win this game, bringing the Saints record to 5-8. On December the 14th, week 15, the Saints will host the Carolina Panthers in the Dome, 3:25 on Fox. Saints, after being swept by Tampa, will sweep Carolina. I think the Saints will beat Carolina in this game, getting the season sweep on this team. I just think the Saints have their number as of late. Despite the fact last season we split with them. We destroyed them in week 1, and then they came back and destroyed us. What, about 8 weeks later, 7 weeks later? It was ugly. But I think the Saints will get them this season and sweep them. The one shining light to come out of the 2025 season. The Saints record at this point will be 6-8. So it's looking promising for the New Orleans Saints up to this point. We move on to week 16 on December the 21st. The Saints will host the New York Jets, 12 noon on CBS. Will Christmas come early for the Saints? Saints will be playing the Jets, who are coached by Aaron Glenn, who, let's not forget, Aaron Glenn had interviewed for the head coaching job of the Saints this season. Well, this offseason didn't go too well. He wanted a little bit more control of the personnel decisions, and that wasn't going to fly with old horse chewing gum Mickey. And so that fell through, but it's all good. We got Kellen Moore, and I think that's a pretty decent pick in my eyes. But as far as this game is concerned, I will never pick the Jets to beat the Saints. The Jets are the Jets. I wouldn't pick the Jets to beat nobody. The Jets are the Jets. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. That is the most self-destructive team in the NFL. The second most destructive team in the NFL. Cleveland Browns come in at number 1, but the Jets are close behind. And I think the Saints will beat the New York Jets in Week 16, bringing their record to 7-8. Oh, man. We have 2 games left this season. 2 games left this season, and in Week 17, the New Orleans Saints, on my daughter's birthday nonetheless, on December the 28th, will travel to Tennessee to play the Tennessee Titans, 12 noon on CBS. Tennessee Titans are not a good team. Not a good team at all. They got Cam Ward with the number 1 overall pick. Cam Ward he deserved to be the number 1 pick. Unfortunately, he doesn't have much to work with over there. They got a new head coach. They got new everything over there. Just like us, they're pretty much the AFC equivalent of us. But I don't think they are nowhere near where we are currently at. I think we're better in certain positions than they are. A little ahead of the curve than they are. I could be completely wrong. This can definitely all change by the time we get to this point. But as it stands right now, I think the New Orleans Saints will defeat the Tennessee Titans and bring their record to an even 500 at 8-8 with 1 game remaining in the season. This is at this point, I went back over the schedule and I had to go back over and check and make sure I wasn't tripping. Make sure I wasn't fanboying it or looking through black and gold goggles and all this here. But I was really shocked that I arrived at an 8-8 schedule this far in the season. But we have 1 game left. 1 game left. Will the New Orleans Saints finish with a winning record this season when they play the Atlanta Falcons? Last game of the season. Time and date is to be determined, because in the event this turns into a game, this may decide the division or playoff positions or seeding and all this other stuff. And so the NFL did not announce the date or time of this game. Honestly, I don't think it's going to really come to that, but in the event that it does, this will be the game. Saints are 8-8 at this point. Saints will have to travel to Atlanta. As I said before in my predictions, Saints had already beat Atlanta in the Dome. Now they got to go to their house. Unfortunately, Saints will lose the final game of the season. I think Atlanta will beat the New Orleans Saints. It's a stretch to say the Saints will split this matchup. Let's be honest. Let's be real. But I finally believe in my heart of hearts that the Saints will conjure up just enough man in them, just enough grit in them to split. Now, I don't know. It could be the first game that they lose. It could be in week 12 that they lose and they win the last game. I don't know. It could be vice versa. But this is how I have it all played out. Saints record at the end of this season. You heard it here first. 8-9. Yeah, it could be a pipe dream. Yeah, I could be tripping, but honestly, those are winnable games that I just went over. They're winnable. But do I look at them and say that the Saints can lose those games too? Absolutely. Absolutely. I can see this being a 4-12 season or a 4-13 season, however it goes now. I can see that happening. I can see the Saints. I can even see the Saints being 9-8. You know, there are some question marks there as well. And so who knows? That's the fun about watching the game. If we can predict it all correctly, well, what would be the point of watching it? But right now, on paper and how everything is set up and how the vibe is, how Kellen Moore is. Kellen Moore really impressed me. You know, it's something about him. It's something about him. I don't know what it is. You know, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. But this is a tough schedule. This isn't a last place schedule. I don't know where this come from. This is a hard schedule. It's going to be tough no matter who's the quarterback. That's why I was so baffled by some of the arguments people were making about who should be the starting QB. It would suck for whoever is behind center. It doesn't matter if it was Shuck. It doesn't matter if it was Rattler. It doesn't matter if you dug up Drew Brees. It is going to be brutal this season for the New Orleans Saints. And so that's my rundown of the schedule this season. We'll see how it all plays out. Well, I'm pretty sure that it is 100% wrong. But to wrap up this preview of the upcoming season, I have a few questions that it's going to be fun to get answers to, because they're going to be answered. They're not going to be left blank on the answer sheet. We're going to have to get answers to these questions going into the season, and these are just mine. I'm pretty sure all of us in the Who Dat Nation, others in the Who Dat Nation, have more questions. But these are just 5 questions I have heading into the 2025 season. Starting off at number 1, what kind of head coach will Kellen Moore be? Will he be a player's coach? You know, real friendly and, you know, all gee willikers and oh shucks, golly gee. Or will he grab people by the face mask, hold players accountable, get the best out of his players? I don't know. We don't know. Nobody knows until this season begins. Question number 2, how will Spencer Rattler fare as QB1? Will this work? Will this experiment work with Spencer Rattler? Will he shock the world? Let's not forget, at one point in his college career, he was a projected first-round pick until that mishap happened with Caleb Williams getting the starting job over him, and he switched schools and whatnot, and that's what pretty much derailed his draft stock. But he was highly scouted. That's why it was so much excitement around that pick when we made it last year. So I don't know, man. Now's the time to prove it, and hopefully he comes out here and shows the world what he's all about. But a part of that question that leads to question number 3. How long will Rattler start for the New Orleans Saints this season? Will he come out here and set the record? Because the only way he goes through all 17 games as the starter, he has to, do Cam Newton first season starters. He has to put up numbers that is astronomical, man. Go on 4 or 5 game win streaks, have a 70% completion percentage and things of that nature. That's the only way. because I think they have a timetable. I think they have a deadline from when they're going to pull the trigger on Shuck. Because at the end of the day, Shuck is their guy. That's who they picked. And so they're not going to have Shuck sitting on the bench collecting dust for long. That's just my opinion. But the question is, when will it happen? Will it happen because Rattler stinks up the joint? Will it happen because the Saints get off to a slow start? Will it happen at the bye, like I predict? Or is for some other reasons? Will it be, God forbid, an injury? Who knows? But how long will Spencer Rattler keep that starting quarterback position? Question number 4. Will the offensive line hold up this season? I should have put that at number 1 because we were so decimated on that offensive line, and it started this preseason again. You know, we lost Will Clapp. What's his name? Trevor Penning got hurt. Ah, man, it was just. Landon Young got hurt. It was like, my God, this offensive line is cursed, man. Who put the voodoo on these people? Who put a hex on this offensive line? We cannot stay healthy. I think Taliense Fuaga is hurt. And so we're not off to a good start already. But let's see, man. We'll find out going forward. Will this line hold up? My final question going into this new season: how will this new 3-4 defense under defensive coordinator Brandon Staley look in the Who Dat Nation? How will it benefit these players? And I'm talking about our seasoned players, like a Cam Jordan, like a Demario Davis. You know, how will Chase Young look in this defense? You know, how will Brian Brzee adjust to this new defense? I think if anybody benefits from it more, it will be Brian Brzee. I think he's going to benefit a lot in this defense. But I'm excited to see this defense more than anything, because I saw flashes of it during the preseason, especially in that last preseason game when the starters played for those 1 or 2 series that they played. They looked really good. They were flying to the ball. They were getting pressure. It was the secondary was pretty decent coverage. It wasn't shutdown coverage, but it was decent coverage. They were around the ball, and that was the trouble under Dennis Allen defense here. Nobody was where they were supposed to be, but it looks like everybody was where they were supposed to be. And granted, that was a sample size, and it was a preseason game. They were running pretty much a vanilla playbook, but I'm excited to see what's to come from this defense. And so that is the rundown. That is my preview for the 2025 New Orleans Saints football season. I'm bucked up, man. I cannot wait till next week, September 7th. Football is back, people. Football is back. Just a reminder to everybody, especially if you're new here. If you are, welcome to the show. I'm glad you checked me out. Glad you sat down and listened to me ramble on for 90 minutes. It wasn't expecting to go this long, but it's the Saints. I can't help it. I love talking Saints football. I love this team. I've been ride or die with this team for 46 years. So I can't help it. But a reminder to everybody that, of course, before every game this season, all 17 games, we do a preview. We preview the upcoming matchup of that weekend. After the game, we do the recap of every game. Normally, historically, I should say, it's a bunch of rants and high blood pressure infused commentary on the game. But I'm trying to turn a new leaf here. I'm trying not to, unless they give me reason to. I'm giving them a learning curve this season because everything is new, everything is fresh, and so I'm gonna do a fresh start. And so I want to go into this peacefully. I'm gonna go into this optimistically, and we'll see. But yes, after every game we do the recap. So if you enjoy what you hear here, and you want to hear the previews and the recaps of the game, don't forget to come back, join us before and after the game, so I can give my honest opinion on what took place on the field. Also, the Who That Said podcast isn't the only podcast on this network. We do movie reviews, we do WWE PLE reviews, as well as commentary. Sometimes I got to get back to it. I haven't done it in a while. Been kind of taking a break from everything that's been going on in the world because it's stressful, and I've been trying to work on my mental health, if you will. But we do all that here on the KB Radio Network. It's not just the Saints, but we're back in the season. We're back in it, and this will probably be the main show for the next for the next 6 months. So strap in and hold on tight because we're going on a ride. I would like to know, what are your thoughts going into this upcoming season, people? Are you excited? Do you think I'm living a pipe dream with this 8-9 prediction for the Saints this season? And what are your predictions? How do you feel about the Spencer Rattler starting announcement and everything else that's going on with the squad? Let me know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show and comment on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Don't forget about YouTube. You can also subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the Who That Said podcast here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me as we preview the New Orleans Saints 2025 football season. Let the countdown begin. And as always, everybody, every day, all day, you're going to hear me screaming, "Who that?"